Hey guys. So we have a jury question. This update is coming from Joseph Papp with AJC. He's down at the courthouse. And remember, the defendants, Yak and Shannon, they should be at the courthouse. The attorneys are supposed to be close by. So we'll see. It should be a few minutes and they'll get everybody in the courtroom. Jury can come ask their question to the judge. Judge will give an answer. And we'll get to see what the question is and if we can maybe infer anything from what they're asking. Probably, I think, good odds to guess maybe some type of understanding of one of the jury instructions. Maybe they're asking for something about a specific exhibit that's not in the back of the room with them. We'll see. We don't know. Here Comes Drama says, I think they will have a lot of questions. I mean, a lot of us, listening to the jury instructions were kind of like, huh? So, shout out to Matthew Payment, who's first, and Marco K, who's second. Second. And yes, Anne, we do have at least one jury question coming in. And it's only been about 3 hours. Well, they have a clock on the screen. But remember, they left at 5 yesterday. They're here since 9 a.m. this morning. They were able to start deliberating as soon as all 12 jurors were present. And the judge is allowing them to leave at 3 p.m. Eastern today because tomorrow in the United States is Thanksgiving. It's a holiday. Court will be closed Thursday and Friday. So a bit of a interesting time frame for jury deliberations. That would give them, 6 hours today total? Minus lunch if they don't work during lunch. Shout out to Miss LJ. Hey to Crystal. Sam says, I'm shocked they have not come back with not guilty yet. How crazy. I mean, I don't think it's that surprising to me. I didn't expect a quick turnaround. I would have laughed if they decided to give a big FU to the prosecution and do one of these, but I'm not surprised that, there's a lot of paperwork. You saw the carts of evidence that went back there, right? They got all this stuff back there with them yesterday. Well, not the firearms, but a lot of the other stuff. Plus the papers. Plus, if this is truly the first time they're getting to get things off their chest, sometimes you just got to go through those motions. Hey to Trey Keisha. Hey, Patty. Kitchen clock is ready. Kitchen clock, I need you today. I'm doing all my food prep, baking my cookies and breads for the holiday. Hey to Hell-Raising Angel. Hey, Greg. Hey, White Sugar. Hey, Wendell. Hey to Gap Girl. Always Real. So this was technically scheduled. So what you have to do to get a notification is click the bell. If you back out of the chat and click the bell next to where you'd subscribe to this channel and put all notifications. This live was scheduled, but the thing is I can't really schedule much of a live for a verdict because I'd schedule it as soon as I heard about it. So, for example, Joseph Papp's tweet was 10 minutes ago. And we've been live for 3 minutes, 34 seconds, and I scheduled this about 4 or 5 minutes before I went live. I saw it as soon as he posted it. So the best thing to do would be hit that bell. All right, hold on. Here we go. No sound. Court feed is not on. And yes, they've been deliberating since 9 this morning, assuming that I think that matches up at the time. It seems like the jurors were on time. And they'll be able to go till about 6 p.m. Oh my gosh, unmute the court mic. Right? This whole week has been with the streams cutting out, the camera feed cutting out. I don't think the jury is speaking though.
That's the appropriate response.
Yes.
that the confusion is when one is a predicate of
Right.
the other.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think that's what they're
And I
struggling with.
think the correct response is, as alleged in the indictment, if a offense is listed as a predicate.
I mean, I'm not going to say predicate because maybe just say like if it's dependent upon or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
They would have to prove out every element alleged in the count, including Mr. Weinstein.
I mean, that's
It's
already in the
bad.
instructions to the jury that they have to consider each of the elements. I mean, could the response just be a referral to
I
the
mean,
jury
that,
instruction?
it could be, but it would be unbelievably unhelpful if we did that.
Well, I
So-
guess I'm still struggling with exactly what their question is.
Repeat
I
it.
mean, they're dependent, yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's why they're asking that, I think.
It sounds like they're questioning count
Your Honor,
one.
one other thing that comes to mind is with at least the firearm count,
Oh.
the machine gun is removed, but there's multiple firearms in the house.
Right.
And I'm trying to find what the number was, but in our instructions, we had, sometimes there's multiple ways to commit an
Yeah.
offense. That specific instruction may aid them if
No, but,
it's,
sorry.
if it's in relation to, sorry, Ms.
Right,
Rice.
if that's what they mean. But
Yes, Your Honor.
considering that, and I can explain that, you know, they don't have to have possessed all of the guns as long as they find that they possessed one of the guns with the requisite intent or whatever, if that's what they mean.
Yes,
But-
Your Honor. And the other state's thought on regard to, I do think it's appropriate, and as, you know, each individual count, they have to evaluate on its own merits. Obviously, these counts relate with one another, but I think that principle of law is,
Well,
But if they're-
yes, I mean, yes, they need to consider them individually and reach a verdict on each separately, but they are interrelated counts, so that's why they're asking. So
Yes, Your
we
Honor.
need to-
I mean, if their question is regarding the possession of marijuana issue, because that seems to be the thread that runs through these three, right?
Yeah, I
The only
think
thing
so.
they have in common. So,
in Your Honor, there was one other
but,
thought when Mr. Weinstein's.
no, I guess I'm still struggling with their question. If the issue is the marijuana, then if they don't find the marijuana, well, obviously they have to find
I
the
mean,
intent as well.
Questions on the
It's easy enough
screen,
to
guys.
start with 58, possession of marijuana with intent to distribute.
Yeah.
You know,
If
I can
that's-
say, these are the elements, and they want to understand what intent to distribute means.
I mean, does their question seem to be more if they don't find 58, then they can't find 61?
I think so,
Yeah. And I think that would be maybe what they're looking at.
yeah.
And then obviously 57, they have kind of two options there, as I see it.
All right, I'm gonna,
Your Honor.
yes,
Say make it smoother in terms of the surveillance video.
yeah,
For the barbershop footage, there is 5 videos and really 4 angles.
uh-huh,
One of them captures the shooting, one of them captures inside the barbershop, and then 2 of them capture the street in front of McDaniel Street itself, but doesn't capture the shooting, and one kind of faces the Texaco. And with the Texaco footage itself, there's a lot of surveillance video from the Texaco with different camera angles. I believe there's as many as 7 or more. So I have an idea in my mind. I don't want to assume which specific portions they want to watch. But for example, some of the vehicles at issue, like when they arrive, some arrive as early as 8:40 or 6:41. And then they leave at 7:20 p.m.
right.
And so I'm working on, there's different softwares that play those, but the state's getting in a posture to be able to play those surveillance videos, but if we have clarity, at least with the Texaco, it can be a little cumbersome to pull up the different cameras on the fly. So I just wanted to, if there's any more clarity on what specifically with the Texaco, because it captures almost 2 hours worth of footage, some of which is irrelevant for purposes of you don't see any suspects.
Well, I'm
or
sure that they don't want to see a part that they never saw to begin with.
Yes, Your Honor, I agree, but there's also, there's a portion where, there's many different portions that could be relevant. Like there's a portion where Mr. Kendrick walks in the store. There's a portion where different vehicles leave or arrive that captures 50 minutes worth of footage. And so there may be very specific events, so to speak, or times of that they want to watch. But I just wanted to highlight that for the court.
So would the idea be to queue each of them up, the portions that were shown before, and say, do you want to watch this? We could do that.
Yes, Your Honor, or if they were able to describe an event or something that came up in closing or something to orient what they want to watch. Like we want to see when the Pontiac arrives, or we want to see when, and they may not be able to give that clarity, but I just wanted to highlight that because it may make it more efficient when we publish it.
Ideas on that?
I think if we just ask in a non-leading way, what portion of each, because the same thing, my understanding, and maybe I'm wrong, in the letter, in the note, they said something about McDaniel Street.
Right, it
So-
said, the drive-by shooting, I mean, that one we know what they mean, right? And the Texaco Northside McDaniel Street.
So I think if they, I believe I know what camera they want to see from outside the barbershop. Even with the barbershop, we had 4, I think, different cameras.
So
if we just get clear.
if everybody thinks they know which of each it is and y'all agree, then we can just start with those and say, is this the one you mean, or is there another one?
Okay.
With the Texaco, though, I'm not sure which one they mean because there's so many different cameras at the Texaco. With the McDaniel Street Barbershop, I'm pretty
Well, I
confident.
don't think it's the one from inside the barber shop.
No,
That
but
one
there's
wouldn't be
2
helpful.
outside the barber shop. So, but I think it's probably the one that shows the actual shooting, I'm guessing.
Well, we can start with that one.
Yeah.
And then say, is that the one? There's another one. Would you like to see that one too? And they probably will say yes, honestly, but.
That's fine with that, with the
Yeah.
barber shop. But with the Texaco,
Right.
there's so many options. I think we have to ask them what they specifically want to see. I mean,
What are the, I mean, do y'all want to put a description of each of them together and we can send it out and say, circle the one or ones you want to see? I mean, I don't know how else to,
yeah, I get, because there's kind of an
I
inside
mean,
Texaco and an
describe
outside
what you want to
Texaco.
see seems,
Yeah. I mean, what do you think about the Texaco?
I think there's just an inside and an outside.
No, the Texaco there's multiple insides. Maybe there are multiple insides in the Texaco. Well, we could just ask them, do they want to see the inside of the Texaco or the outside of the Texaco?
okay, I mean, that much we can do.
Yeah. Can I jump back to where the 57, 58, 61?
In a second, Sergeant Brown, can you go ask them to let us know whether the video from the Texaco they want to see is the interior or the exterior? And if they can give us any more detail about what they want to see.
Your Honor, this might help, I'm not certain, but they're probably talking about something in closing. And so if there was a point of reference, like play by.
Well, if they've
defense,
just asked the question that I asked you to ask them.
Okay.
If they want to clarify further that way, they can.
And, okay.
Don't want us talking while
I
the jury
understand.
door is open. Okay.
57, I think I misspoke on 57 where I said there were two ways. Rereading 57, count 57. It looks like without the possession of the marijuana, they can't do 57, 58, or 61. So that may be what they're referring to. Because of the possession of a firearm during commission of a felony in 57 requires 58 and 61, which is the marijuana again. So that may be what they're talking about with 57, 58, and 61. Is the possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. Because wasn't there also a question regarding intent that came to us?
Yeah, they originally said, well, no, I'm sorry. On their second one, they said, please clarify the wording intent to distribute and underline the word intent. So I'm looking for where I explained intent to distribute and intent right now, and we'll see.
All right, ignore the indictment I put on the screen because the numbers must have changed significantly. So I'm guessing that this is the raid. So it sounds like they're confused. Now on the screen is going to be the charge. It should have the language changed. It shouldn't contain the cocaine or codeine because remember that charge was dismissed against Yak with the directed verdict. So this should be reworded in the current indictment just to say possession of marijuana. So this is one of the ones it seems like they're asking about. Although again, it's going to read differently now. And shout out to JH. Thank you for the 3, JH. Appreciate you. Mars gets at Cat. I think they want to rewatch the video. They want to see if they did any form of vehicle swapping according to the state behind the gas station. That's where my brain is at with this question to see the gas station and the Donovan Thomas shooting. Because the state in closing tried to say, you know, I submit that they could have gone behind the gas station and swapped cars. I implore you to watch this video. Well, maybe they'll watch it and say, hey, we don't see Yak getting in that car, so... And then is it a Pontiac or Infinity in this barbershop video? I think this is exactly what they are trying to come to a conclusion on there. Thank you for the 10 and for the super. Stephen Hickman's out here gifting membership. Shout out to Stephen in the chat. Make sure you're saying thank you if you got one. Thank you so much, Stephen.
What is the definition? Intent to unlawfully deliver or sell, right? Page 23.
I'm sorry?
The intent to distribute is defined at the bottom
Yeah.
of page 23.
Yeah. Which they have out with them, so obviously that's not helping them. But
Maybe they just can't find it in the flash.
maybe, I mean, I'll read that part over to them.
Yeah.
Of course, I think that's another one of our circular definitions that ended up in here. cursive definitions.
So on that, I would propose to say that for, which count is it? Is that count 58 for count?
The possession with intent to distribute, Your
Yeah.
Honor? It's actually an element of
Well,
all three.
I know, but so for possession with intent to distribute means that Mr. Kendrick, frankly, if you go back to the knowledge part that I charged on page 13, knowingly and intentionally participated or helped in possessing marijuana, intending to unlawfully deliver or sell it.
Yeah, I agree that that incorporates the
Okay.
proper definitions.
So the state must prove.
Your Honor?
Hang on,
Yes,
hang
sir.
on, hang on. Sorry, I just need to get this down and then just hold your thought. Let's turn our phones off. Oh, that's one of the jurors' phones. It's in a box over here. Okay, maybe you can go figure out and like put them all on vibrate or something.
Dan, so with one of the charges, they took out the language about cocaine and codeine, but left the language about marijuana because there was no count dismissed by Whitaker during the directed verdict for the marijuana possession. She only was like, nope, codeine and cocaine, no bueno. No way the evidence shows that he had constructive possession or access to those two drugs.
All right, yes.
Part of the instructions the court had read that may be helpful is where it's page 11 and 12.
Okay.
It describes criminal intent. Intent may be shown in multiple ways. Criminal intent does not mean, it starts right on the bottom of page 11. Intent is an essential element of any crime. And then I believe it continues to discuss about intent right through the middle of page 12, and then goes on to describe party to a crime. But that instruction about intent could also be beneficial, the state believes.
I mean, the most helpful part of that is it means the intent to commit the act that is prohibited by a statute, which is specifically with regard to this one, intending to unlawfully deliver or sell marijuana. I'm thinking about saying on intent to distribute, possession of marijuana with intent to distribute, the state must prove that Mr. Kendrick knowingly and intentionally participated in or helped in possessing marijuana, intending to unlawfully deliver or sell it, and find out whether that
That
covers
sounds like the
what they
right,
were asking.
that sounds like the right course to Mr. Kendrick. When you have a second, I just want to go back to 57, 58, and 61.
Sure, I mean, I know we need to
Okay.
get that.
I know, but I don't want to do that if you're still
Yeah,
writing
I
or
appreciate
thinking
it.
or,
All right, yes.
okay. Regarding their question about the separateness, interrelatedness, whatever term they used of 57, 58, and 61.
Yeah.
I just think it would be, perhaps it would answer their question if you went back and explained that possession of marijuana with intent to distribute is a required finding of each of those three, and that may help explain that.
Okay.
I think this is decent for Kendrick, and I think Doug's clarification request there is good. So remember, 57 is participation in criminal street gang activity during one of the following offenses, including
Your Honor, with
possession
the
of
court's
marijuana
permission, when the court allows, I
with
have a
intent to
question.
distribute.
Hang on.
What does Love want?
All right, yes, ma'am.
The court may have already answered this question, but I don't know whether what Mr. Atkins just referred the court to was the part about intent may be inferred from the proven circumstances or by acts and conduct. Did the court respond to that?
I'm not planning to read all of that unless when I read the first part and ask them if it covers what they're asking. If they say no, then I'll circle back and read that whole part. Did they get back with us on the video thing? Okay. Do they know to do the light? I mean, they were doing it earlier, all right.
Love basically wants the jury to be able, or to highlight to the jury, that they can infer intent from Yak's behavior during the raid, aka running away from the raid. So that demeanor, that intent, that behavior, in and of itself is enough to make the inference that he had intent to sell and distribute this marijuana that was found in the home, while in possession of the firearm for one of the charges, in and of
Please
itself
provide
for a
the
separate
videos of the
charge.
following, the gas station when Yak was getting into the car, camera in front of the station. Y'all understand what that means?
This is good
Okay,
for
and
Yak.
then number 2, the drive-by shooting in front of the barbershop on McDaniel Street on Donovan Thomas.
Okay.
They clarified that one for us too.
Judge, there are there are 4 camera angles of the drive-by shooting, so we'll be prepared to play one of them or all of them, whatever they prefer. There are 4 different camera angles of the drive-by shooting. I'm
Late, love,
presuming
we've
they
gone
need
over
one
this.
that actually shows the shots, but there.
I would think so. So let's start with that one and ask them, is this the one you meant?
Okay. Do we have this on?
Yes.
So they added, Mr. Weinstein, also, please have Attorney Weinstein clarify if he said my client's watch or where is the watch regarding the Richard Milley watch, which is in no way, it's a total red herring. And good for you for distracting them, but that is not an element of anything they're supposed to be considering.
Your Honor, with
I don't believe that that was a red herring, and it went to the credibility of law enforcement.
That's
and their
true,
witnesses.
but-
So I would disagree with that characterization
Anyway,
of the
what
court.
did you say?
I said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say his watch. I probably said the watch. If I said his watch, that would have been I would have misspoken.
Okay. So I will just say,
Yeah.
Mr. Weinstein did not say my client's watch. If he did, he misspoke.
I probably said, where is the watch? That was a gift, a 30th birthday
Where
gift
is the
from
watch?
Drake to Mr. Williams.
All right,
and a
so
great
I'll just
sentimental
answer
value.
that he said, where is the watch?
Your Honor, would the court be inclined to respond that what the attorneys say is not evidence?
Yes, that's
And
an
that
excellent
should not be
idea.
even a consideration,
Uh-huh.
rather than.
Oh, well,
yes.
they're thinking about it. Juror 56, I'm telling you.
I'm going to do both.
It was definitely the watch.
I'll just say, Mr. Weinstein said the watch, however, what the attorneys say is not evidence. How about that? Does that work?
Yes, Your Honor.
Remember that what the attorneys say is not evidence. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, 292 Yankee Alpha is the shooting barbershop surveillance footage. I know when the shooting happens. I wanted to ask on the record or defense counsel, there is about 8 minutes that plays before the shooting occurs.
I can't imagine that's what they want.
I don't want to just, I want to tell for the record, or agree with defense counsel, find a portion we can all agree to start that video.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's fine to start
Okay.
a minute before or
Okay.
whatever. That's fine.
Thank you.
But thank you for clarifying that, and mentioning that.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
I'm going to say, however, remember that nothing that the attorneys say is evidence.
This is crazy. So the jury's thinking about that watch. They want to look at that video, and Hilton told them to ask for this video of Yak at the gas station getting into the car. I submit to you that they could have switched behind the gas station, out of camera view. And then they want to see which car does the drive-by. I really think this is great for Yak. And it could be they're trying to just do their diligence. It could be they have someone saying that we think Yak is guilty, and the other jurors are like, what? No, we're going to show you. Like, look at this for your own eyes. Like, don't listen to the words that Hilton's saying in her closing. Let's watch. Let's look at it, and we'll show you. Like, because that's not right. So, I definitely think my position is this is good for Yak. And it's so hilarious that they are, the watch is a distraction. Oh well. Oh well. That's what you get. That's what you get for having a shady APD force. Also, big thank you here to Stephen Hickman for the kind wishes here for the U.S. holiday. Great time to eat, check in on friends and family. Happy Thanksgiving, Cat and KNW family. Thank you so much. Right back at you. And Dee Dee, I do have this queued up. When the stream goes out, when we're done with jury questions, we can replay the time that they were facing. It's serious time because they both have priors. So I also 100%
All right.
agree with this
How
here.
about
Well, we'll get into it in a second.
after giving them the definition or the explanation of possession with intent to distribute, moving on to whether you need to group counts 57, 58, and 61 individually or separately, you need to consider them individually and reach a verdict as to each separately. But possession of marijuana with intent to distribute would need to be proven for count 58, count 61, and count 57.
Yes.
And I'm putting them in that order because that's kind of the order that 58 is possession with intent to distribute. 61 is possession of the gun because while you're committing that crime. And then 61 is if you're committing that crime, are you then potentially committing gang activity?
Yeah, I understand. That's a far more natural order than they appear in the indictment, so.
All right. All right, are we satisfied then with the answers? And then we'll just have them, I think I'll have them watch the videos, and then answer their questions. Because that way, if there's any follow-up, they can let us know that. All right, yes.
So, Your Honor, the intent is to play the Texaco footage first?
Yeah.
And then will they tell us when they want us to stop? Because they're at the Texaco for about 36 minutes. So what?
Do y'all know when you intend to start? I mean, did we watch 36 minutes?
It was all introduced, every
Okay.
bit of it.
I think they requested a very specific part of that Texaco. Didn't
Yeah.
they mention entering a car or
The
exiting?
gas station when Yak was getting into the car, camera in front of the station.
Look at
So
love.
I think we start there.
Yeah.
And then
When he was getting.
I'll just,
Into the
that's what
car.
it says, when Yak was getting into the car. So, I
Oops.
mean, you know, do a little bit that leads up and a little bit afterwards.
Yeah, let's
and
just play the portion
If
that they're.
it's any more than that, I'll just say, does that cover what you
3
wanted?
times. So do we need
Well,
the
then
last time?
play each time he gets in the car, I guess.
Okay.
Love is panicked. Holy
Okay, so
moly.
that's going to be on camera 10, just for the record.
Okay.
And I'm going to, if the court will give me 1 minute, I'm going to pull
Sure.
it to the first part.
All right.
You think she's saying in her head right now? Yeah, this is the part Hilton lied about. Whew. But honorable, yeah, this is a perfect comment. Too much, I submit to you. I
Do we have
assume
the copy,
will bite Hilton
extra
in the
copies of
ass.
indictment to give them? Have we given them extra copies of the indictment at this point? Sergeant, have we? Okay, thank you. All right, let me know when you're ready and we'll have them out. Get on Zoom.
Yeah, this is true, and that's why Doug's emphasizing that he did not say it was his client's watch. Doug is on it. Doug understands. But yeah, no swap caught on the camera, no one shooting out the roof of any car, and these are things that Hilton tried to emphasize and paint her story in her closing. Like, hot mess. And that's the thing. That's why it was kind of like nerve-wracking, because it's the first time she tried to tell a story. So if a juror is sitting there taking it at face value, I mean, it's really possible that one juror is taking Hilton's closing argument word for word, and the other jurors are like, but if you look at it, like, let's look at it and see. Because what she said is not what we saw.
All right, and Your Honor, we have it queued up 296Y at 191633.
All right.
Let's get the jury. Here we go. And shout out to FFS with the boop. Also, good morning and thank you to One Happy White Girl who says good morning, Cat, Chat, and the mods.
All right, let's get the jury in. Uh-oh. It went up? Don't worry about it. No.
The attorneys' mics are still on. Hey, Bossman Bambino, the jury wants to watch the video of the Texaco gas station to see what car Yak gets into. They want to watch the video of the Donovan Thomas drive-by shooting. They wanted clarity on the meaning of intent. It seems like they're looking at the possession of firearm with intent to distribute charges counts. And they asked if Doug said his client's watch or the watch was missing. Don Dada says no commentary from the DA while the videos play. Love hates that. She's gonna try to like distract. And thank you again, Bossman, for the 2. Thanks for joining us. Kevin Kirksey, they're back, baby.
All jurors requested accounting for.
Thank you. All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The first thing we're going to do is watch the videos that you all requested, and then I'll move on to answering the questions. All right, go ahead with the first one.
Here we go. Let's watch, guys. All eyes on the screen. What do you guys see?
Excuse me, Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes. Do you want me to stop the video?
Yes, please.
Okay. Give me a second, Bill.
Look at Love trying to point at the timeline. She looks like she's pointing where the timeline scroll would be on the video. All right, let's see. Yeah, power moves. No, this is right. And Doug understands this. You can tell by how he wants to address the watch question. It's the watch, not my client's watch. But yeah, that it would show that he's been there all the time, would leave something valuable there like that. And it shows you that the jury, that's why I'm saying I think one juror is saying, but he was there, because they're asking questions about intent. Would it have been his marijuana to even distribute? Well, the watch was there. It was his. And then the other jurors are probably like, I don't think that watch was his. All that other jewelry is supposed to be Jeffrey Williams jewelry. Why would that one watch be his? Doug's just asking about it. So they agreed we're going to get some clarification by asking this question, which would mean what if this is my hypothetical, why I think we're getting this question. If that person's saying, but the marijuana could be his if that watch is his. Doug said it was his watch. And we say, no, Doug didn't say that it was his client's watch. Then what happens to this point about the marijuana possession, which is an underlying predicate? You know, we have the possession charge. Where is it? Let me read them. We have the participation in criminal streaking with during possession with intent to distribute for 57. Violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. That's just the possession with intent to distribute. And violation of the Georgia Controlled, no, wrong one. Possession of firearm during commission of a felony of possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. So that's why we're talking about the predicate acts. Atkins was trying to like clean it all up. But if they don't think he had the opportunity to be near or in possession of that weed with intent to distribute it, then all three of those charges would be a no, a not guilty. The elements wouldn't have been met. So, very big question there.
We're going to try that again.
Your Honor, for the record, we're on camera 10 at 18:44:31.
We're not sure exactly which getting into the car you meant, so we're just trying to show all of them for y'all, okay?
This ball is still on.
8 wants to approach now? All right, we're approaching again. It's crazy because I don't know if they'd really be questioning this much if Hilton didn't emphasize it in her closing. Yeah, Obi, I can picture someone saying this in the jury room. Like, the jewelry was all in one location. They have that picture back there with them. That picture. It makes no sense for Yak's gifted watch to be in Thug's bedroom closet, right? So sometimes you got to speak to the other jurors. Set it straight. Ask questions that get people to think and apply some common sense.
So, Your Honor, at this point, for the record, we're going to stop it and stop sharing, and then fast forward to the next point that he gets into the car.
Okay.
We're stopping at 18:48:17. We're fast forwarding now to 19:15:25 on camera 10. So that was the second time he got in the car. Now we're going to fast forward to the next time he gets in the car.
Okay.
Which will be at 19:15:52. We're fast forwarding to that.
I mean, I think this is the one they wanted to see. Because I think Hilton wanted the jury to think that the guy that was over here was,
All
yeah,
right, does
standing
that
by that door.
Satisfy what y'all wanted to see on
No,
that?
that's not the last
Oh,
time he got in
okay,
the car.
all right, sorry.
We're fast forwarding.
Sorry.
Stop
Thought y'all said 3
commenting.
times.
So we're now
My bad.
fast forwarding to
Look at chart. Look at
19,
chart.
17, and 10.
This is great. There we are. Yak in a Pontiac. It's so lucky that he's wearing
Those are the times
like that fur
Does
coat.
that satisfy what y'all wanted to see?
Yes.
Y'all are nodding yes. Okay, all right. Now we'll move on to the barbershop video.
Your Honor, and for the record, it's 292 Yankee Alpha, and we're starting at 8 minutes and 22 seconds of that exhibit.
Fear contrast between the expression over here and the expression over there. For real. That coat made it obvious who he was in the video. And he was not standing at the driver's side of the other car. He was getting in the Pontiac. Crazy.
Your Honor, may you inquire if there's any more of this video? I'm stopping for the record at 9 minutes and 14 seconds.
All right, does that satisfy what y'all wanted to see on that? Or is there a different angle or more that you want to see? That's good, okay, that's what they wanted to see. All right, moving on.
Woo!
Sorry.
Doug
Good,
covering
okay.
his-
All right, moving on to the questions. Mr. Weinstein
Panic,
said the
panic,
watch.
panic, panic,
However,
panic,
remember
panic.
that nothing that the attorneys say is evidence. All right, moving on to the next couple of questions. All right, on count 58, possession of marijuana with intent to distribute, the state must prove that Mr. Kendrick knowingly and intentionally participated in or helped in possessing marijuana, intending to unlawfully deliver or sell it. Does that cover what y'all are asking with regard to that one? Yes, okay. All right. Moving on to whether you need to group counts 57, 58, and 61 individually or separately. You will need to consider them individually and reach a verdict as to each of them separately, but possession of marijuana with intent to distribute would need to be proven for count 58, count 61, and count 57. Does that cover what y'all wanted to? Okay. All right, then I will excuse y'all to continue deliberations. Thank you.
Right, you guys. I think we will get a, well, what do they got? They got about 4.5 hours. We'll do a recap, guys. We'll do a recap chat. We've got about 4.5 hours. It's possible they're only working on Diamante Kendrick or the Donovan Thomas thing right now. It looks like they're talking about Yak because all of their questions relate to Yak. they might need some time to go over, like, all right, what's this Waters Road thing? What's this Chamel drink
Right,
stuff?
we'll be
That
in
might take
recess
some
until we
time.
hear from them again.
So don't be surprised. But I think we might still get a verdict today after this. And I am very confident that Diamante Kendrick
Would it work for,
is looking good.
this is not for the record, I'm just asking you as the cameraman, would it work for,
All right. Well, maybe we'll find out. So the clock is starting again because they're back to deliberation. So for those who had a question about it being paused, that is why. Guys, so if you're coming in late, the jury had a few questions. They wanted to understand the clarity. They wanted some clarity on intent and the counts. We can look at the counts here. You heard Atkins, the mic was cut off when the feed started, but we started with Atkins saying like predicate acts, blah, 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 blah. Now the counts in question, now the language is going to be different, right? This is the indictment copy that I have. I don't have the copy that went back with the jury. But because the directed verdict dismissed the possession of codeine and the possession of cocaine, the language of this count as the jury sees it will only say possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. So for the jury to find Diamante Kendrick guilty of count 57, they have to agree that that the state proved beyond a reasonable doubt all of the elements required. And this offense here is participation in criminal street gang activity. Did unlawfully while associated with a criminal street gang, YSL, participate in criminal street gang activity through the commission of at least, it probably doesn't say at least anymore, one of the offense of possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. This is from May 2022, the raid on Jeffrey Williams' home, and they're asking about this intent. Now, remember, if they don't think that weed was his, they can't say, well, we think he participated in criminal street gang activity, because it would be necessary for them to also find that he was in possession of that weed and also had intent to distribute it. Right? So all of those things need to be here. So if they don't think he was in possession of that weed with intent to distribute it, this goes off the table because an element is gone. Same thing. This one is just violation of the Controlled Substances Act with possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. No additional criteria needs to be met. But again, if they don't think that he was in possession or had intent to distribute, off the table. So if they find not guilty on 58, essentially it can't be a guilty on 57. That would be an error of law. That would be an inconsistent verdict. If the other count was 61, and again, we're not going to have this codeine or this cocaine language here. It's only the marijuana left on the table here. But possession of a firearm during commission of a felony, and this is all the guns they had during the raid, minus the one machine gun, the Glock 30S, the Glock 357, the FN firearm, the Glock 19 firearm, Smith & Wesson at M&P, the Glock 45, or I think this is the one that they removed from this count. So I believe this was modified before it was sent to the jury. That firearm with the converter switch, I don't think is part of the language anymore. And then this would say, while during the commission of this felony here, possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. So again, if they find not guilty on 58, possession of marijuana with intent to distribute, then it would be an inconsistent verdict if they ended up finding guilty here, because they say not guilty on this predicate act requirement here. So the questions that they're asking to me look very, very, very good for Diamante Kendrick. And I know that this seems like, oh, it's about weed, but this would carry serious time. So these aren't just small charges. I don't think this is something that the judge would be like, haha, time served. Because possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony carries minimums. Same thing with participation in criminal street gang activity. You've got minimums. So then the next question I don't know the order they asked the question, but they were also curious. That's why we're watching these videos. The wording of their question was they wanted to see the video of Yak getting into the car at the Texaco gas station. Now that's very important, because they want to know where he was driving, what he was driving, where he was when he left that gas station before the Donovan Thomas shooting. Because they also want to see the Donovan Thomas drive-by video. And much to the state's dismay, I'm sure, they only wanted to see that one angle. And they only needed to see it one time. Right? So it seems to me, and this is again, this is hypothetical here from me or speculation, I think they just wanted to match the cars. Hilton was yelling at them during closing arguments that Yak could have been in the Infiniti car and not the Pontiac, that they could have switched behind the gas station. Now, when you're told to, sure, maybe that actually happened, right? But use common sense. Consider the reasonable doubt standard. You've got the state yelling at you, trying to tell you something that doesn't match your own eyes. You ask to see the video for yourself. And the video shows Yak getting into the Pontiac in the driver's seat. And then an Infiniti, you've been told it's an Infiniti. Doug told you during closing, I want you to believe that expert that says it was an Infiniti. Like, sure, because that's not the car my client was in. So what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Yeah, they wanted the non-existent video of Yak getting into an Infiniti. And why are we saying Audi, not Infiniti? Am I missing something? Because we're talking about the Donovan Thomas shooting, where even the state's witnesses said it's an Infiniti that does the drive-by. They map out who they think's in the Infiniti. The Donovan Thomas is the Infiniti, not the Audi. Shamel Drinks is the Shannon Stillwell in the white Audi, is the theory there. But yeah, very telling question. And to me, more telling that they said, yes, we're good when they played the video of Yak getting into the vehicle. That's the one we wanted to see. Oh, yes, we're good. That's the one we wanted to see when we show the one angle of the drive-by shooting at the barbershop, outside the barbershop. Love looked pissed during that moment. Love looked pissed. So, and then what else? Oh, the watch question. So, the jury wanted to know, and we've talked about this in the chat. Chat's had great insight here. And guys, the way you're thinking about things in the chat, if you guys ever sit on a jury, please ask the same questions that you're asking in this chat. The jury wanted to know, was the watch that Doug was asking about, did Doug say my client's watch, or did he say the watch, right? Showing what did he have access to in the home. Really a good question, really a good question. And I don't think the jury would ask for clarification there unless they were debating it amongst themselves. So, yeah, and I think, like, during closing, I was a bit surprised at how much the state focused on Diamante Kendrick and the Donovan Thomas, tying him to the Donovan Thomas shooting. They didn't really talk about Shannon Stillwell, which that's a count, right? But, you know, this isn't just Diamante Kendrick. Shannon Stillwell's up for the same murder count there. So that was something that I thought was weird about Hilton's close, but okay. And yes, let me emphasize, Doug said the watch, because that was a watch that was gifted to Young Thug, to Jeffrey Williams by Drake. It was in his closet. That body cam of Vivarito is in Jeffrey Williams' closet. So, yeah, and I would agree. I think that's fair enough. Like, the way the chat's asking questions now, well, like, what about Shannon? Shannon's not in the video either. I mean, the jury could be thinking the exact same way. We are about on 4 hours of jury deliberations. I do think it's, you know, pretty safe to say that they're probably discussing this a few more minutes, and then they'll wrap it up on this Donovan Thomas, at least as it relates to Diamante Kendrick, maybe overall. And the 2022 raid on Jeffrey Williams' home, the charges that Yak has stemming from that. Then they might move on to Shamel Drinks if they haven't done that already. They haven't asked to play that video. I imagine we'll get more jury questions to replay that video. And if it doesn't happen soon, if we end this, I'll come back live immediately. I can't imagine them not wanting to watch that FedEx video. So, but yeah. Oh, Sunshine says one juror said at the very end, I just wanted to see the car. Yeah, I mean, maybe a juror, you know, on the flip side, devil's advocate here. I don't think this is it. But I think they want to see the car because Yak's getting into one car and then a different car's doing the drive-by. To cover bases here, it's possible that there's 12 people on the jury saying, well, maybe that Infiniti was a Pontiac. Which at the same time, if it's suddenly a Pontiac and it's Diamante Kendrick doing the drive-by, the whole theory of the drive-by shooting would change, right? Because they've been saying it's an Infiniti. So what do you believe then? That in of itself becomes even more confusing. So yes, this is a combined total clock because they've only been here since about 9 a.m. today, assuming that all jurors were on time. So, but yeah, really, really interesting question. Sometimes jury questions, you think you might be able to read some tea leaves and it's just kind of like, what? So, Sassy Experience's unpopular opinion, but I actually like Love's haircut. Frames her face really pretty. I don't care for her, but her cut is nice. I don't mind it. I actually was thinking I really liked her haircut. Was it yesterday she was wearing with the buttons? Yeah, like whatever day that was this week. Well, today's Tuesday. It must have been yesterday. I was thinking like I really like her hair this length, and then she cuts it today, but I don't mind it either. I like it this way too. I don't really care about anyone's haircuts or anything like that. I do care about the facial expressions. I certainly care about those. And I think this is valid too. So thank you, Sassy Experience. I also do see what Jennifer Devine's saying here. I always cut my hair when I'm upset. Love has had like 3 cuts in the last month. Now, short hair needs to be cut more often to keep it, styled. Because, an inch or 2 of growth is a big deal when your hair is only already an inch or 2 long. But at the same time, I get this, and this is a thing. People like to do the change. They feel stressed out. They want to change it up a little bit. So there's some truth here. There's definitely some truth here. Let's see. Black Butterfly says, how can Shannon sleep at a time like this, though? I think a lot of the time he ends up putting his head down, especially like when the jury's not in the room. I don't blame anybody, and I'm extremely jealous of people that can sleep in any scenario. Oh my God, is it Wednesday? Sorry. You're right. Sorry. But yeah, I'm jealous of people that can sleep easily. But of course, I'm not jealous of the scenario that Shannon's in. Like trying to sleep at Rice Street, I don't blame him at all for trying to get some Z's in the courtroom. Absolutely do not blame him. Although, me personally, I would not be able to put my head down and go to sleep. Very jealous of people that can sleep easily. Sleep on flights, I can't do it. But yeah, guys, if you guys were just here for jury instructions, hit that notification bell because I do expect, the jury likes to see these videos, it seems like, right? I think when we were guessing, what will the jury want to look at? What evidence will they request? What will they pay attention to? These videos are the exact things that the chat was really saying would be the thing. They want to see the watch just because it's kind of a joke. And then these videos of the shootings. So put that notification bell on. We will jump back live if they don't come back out quickly. I really think we'll get more jury questions when they start deliberating on the Chamel Drinks incident. Obi says, is that Tyler Perry in the white for the state? He's everywhere. Who is wearing white? Who is wearing white? Oh, let me do a little scrub. Oh, you're talking about Love. Obi! Stop it. But Love wouldn't miss this moment. Thank you, Obi. Danielle Judge, thank you so much. Let's show Danielle some love. Danielle's out here gifting memberships, bringing some holiday spirit here into the chat. Super nice. Oh, we want to host a football game? This could be fun. I really enjoy football, especially, football parties involve a lot of food, so right up my alley there. Yeah, Inner City Politics says these videos are crucial pieces of evidence that they want clarity on. 1,000,000%. I think it's a good look that they're going through these motions, right? They're taking this seriously. Questions like this would dispel any, Hilton seemed like she was worried. Atkins seemed like he was making a point of, you can't just come out here and find non-guilty because you like their attorneys, because you like them. That's not what you're supposed to weigh. Well, by them asking these questions, it shows that they're looking at the evidence. So nip that gripe in the bud. Very important there. Let's see. Yeah, KC Dog, this was infuriating. The chat was going bananas. Love was trying to repeat. He gets into the car, like, while the other car is visible on the screen, like, making it confusing. And it's really frustrating because I think, and let's just pull up the... It's the only thing that makes sense to me, is that they wanted the jury to think that this was Yak. And what I think is more problematic about that is maybe at some point their lazy detectives also just assumed this was Yak because they were also already looking at a name. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Right? That's the only thing I can... I'm blurry? Oh, my bad. Hopefully it, like, fixes itself. But I really think they were just hoping that they would think this is Yak because it's hard to tell. And seriously, thank goodness he was wearing a very distinctive fur coat. Because if he wasn't, maybe this would fly. Yeah, I don't think it's like the same builds. I don't think they look familiar. It either shows that they're being deceptive or that their investigators just assumed somebody was somebody and concluded it was who they assumed it was in the first place. What else would be new? Or both. Or both. So, I don't know. But yeah, that commentary was, especially you're told no commentary, like, come on. She cannot help it. She does it on purpose. Leah Patricia says, what did Hilton say regarding Yak and the car? So in closing, Hilton was trying to give the impression, that the way I took it, that Yak ends up getting in, not the Pontiac, but ends up getting in the Infinity. So it's just kind of like, we're this far in the case. You're still arguing something that goes against what I see with my own eyes. I think that was such a weird thing for her to do during closing. Because even if I think you're delivering and maybe landing some points that a jury could buy, when you try to tell someone something happens on video or just assume something happened off camera where you can't see it. And we can play it again. I mean...
All right, does that satisfy what y'all wanted to see on
No,
that?
that's not the
okay,
last
wait.
time he got in
Okay,
the car.
all right, sorry.
We're fast forwarding.
Sorry, thought y'all said 3 times.
So we're now
My bad.
fast forwarding to 19, 17, and 10. Those are the times that he...
Does that satisfy what y'all wanted to see?
Look at the faces
Y'all are
here.
nodding
Look at them.
Yes, okay, all right. Now we'll move on to...
Shart and Doug are happy. Love is like... Oh boy. So they initially sent a note through... Did they say Deputy Brown? I think Deputy Brown is in there with them for deliberation. So they sent a note through him initially. And then they are speaking verbally here. So. Oh, man. Ugh, this is just great. Hold on. I think we could see a little more of their faces.
Barbershop video.
She just folds her hands. Shart is gleeful. Oh, man. This is good. This is good. Like I said, I love the facial expressions. Shamina Wright, thank you for the kind words. Great coverage, Kat. Well, thank you for being a member for 3 months. Always glad to see you in the chat. The Honorable That says, this gives me good vibes for SB. They won't take Hilton's word that he unconsciously pressed the brake on-off for 30 seconds. Hope they ask for the medical examiner transcript. Yeah, and that really, you guys heard me like lose my cool. When she finished her closing, I had so many thoughts. They all had to sit and marinate for a while. But two things that bothered me, I thought of that Christian Eppinger apprehension video and how she wanted to show that, the police treat, when they have a suspect of a crime that happens to be black, they treat them so well. They don't harm them. That was her reasoning for wanting to bring in the Christian Eppinger video. And it pissed me off the way she opened her opening statement, thinking back to her rationale for that issue. Then it also pissed me off that she misrepresented the testimony of the medical examiner. One that's highly credentialed, one that she called. She was asked, the medical examiner was asked, could you even, like, for a split second after this type of injury, lift your foot up off the pedal? No. It would be impossible. The immobilization would be instantaneous. Shart emphasized that with the testimony, and when I told you guys, there's a reason he has to repeat this stuff. You guys are like, we get it, Shart, wrap it up for his closing argument. I'm like, no, he's got to repeat it because the defense gets the last word. And they're going to try to get their last word to ring louder. And what did Hilton try to do with this medical examiner testimony? Well, she didn't say anything about unconscious movement. Well, yeah, she did. She said it wouldn't be possible. So it was a complete misrepresentation of key testimony. And it really pissed me off. And think about if that video wasn't there for us to see the brake lights. That wouldn't even be an argument that the defense could make because we wouldn't have video of the brake lights still pumping 34 seconds later. So if that video wasn't there, or if the detectives didn't think that video showed the Shannon Stillwell's vehicle looking at the right place at the right time, maybe that video would no longer exist, even if it existed at one point. I don't know. I don't have faith in these APD people anymore. They seem to be losing anything that doesn't look good for their case. And the only reason we might have this video very well could be because they thought it looked good for them in their argument against the people they're accusing. So, well, yes, medical, whatever, improbability. You're right. But yeah, so there were my rants. I just can't stand it. And yet they want to emphasize that, with this watch thing, with the telling the jurors that he said the watch, not my client's watch. Oh, make sure to remind them that what the attorneys say isn't evidence. Well, yeah, that goes for you too, state, probably to your dismay, but all right. We have the opportunity to emphasize it when they're thinking about Doug Weinstein. State's ready to make that reminder. Okay. Positive Q with the positivity here says, good morning, Kat, mods, and chat. This case had Love pull that weave strip out the front of her head. Loud Hilton hung herself lying. And that's the thing, the emphasis, right? I really think part of me was concerned, and these jury questions showed me that the jurors were paying attention to key details of this trial. But I was like, well, Hilton's actually telling a cogent story. It might not be accurate. It might involve some misrepresentations, but she's telling something that actually can be followed, finally, for the first time in this case. So if the details have been lost all before, this might be the first time that some of the jurors are sitting there and actually piecing things together. And because it involves misrepresentations, I was like, oh boy, no bueno. But these questions are showing that, no, they have been paying attention to these details through and throughout the trial. Of course, minus anything, we're all human. We forget things. We don't always catch things as it's happening. So I'm not saying they have every single detail memorized or even caught it as it was happening, but they were clearly paying attention with the questions that they're asking. So I think it comes back to bite Hilton to overemphasize things that they could come back and see with their own eyes weren't really what she was saying. So thank you so much, Positive Q. Sassy Experiences page is the lesser of two with the purple devil emoji. But y'all know that Ural would have had a shit show in favor of the state. Comfort breaks, love arguing to the jury, defense in contempt. And not for nothing, but I feel like Glanville would have given like a whole monologue in answering these questions for the jurors. I don't think that he would have been as careful about what we play, what we ask them, any commentary. So I think this whole, even just this little bit that we had of court feed today would have been very different with a different judge in general. I think Whitaker is very careful not to say more than necessary. So, I say what the F I want says, I think someone thought if, quote, his watch was deep in the closet, then maybe he lived there. When they realize it wasn't Yak's watch, they will probably understand he didn't reside there and have control there. Yep, I totally agree. And I think this shows the importance of the conversations back and forth, right? We're only human. We have different reasons that we might interpret things differently. And we get back in that deliberations room, we start to have this conversation, we start to talk about things. Clearly the watch was something they were thinking about for whatever reason. And you might say, well, why was his watch there if it wasn't his home, right? So maybe the other jurors are like, well, we don't get this. It wasn't his house. How is he responsible for this? Someone's like, but his watch was there. And then they go, what? No, his watch wasn't there. Yeah, his watch was there. His Doug was asking about his watch. Well, no. He was asking about a watch, but he was asking about Jeffrey Williams' watch. And they're like, no, why would he be asking about someone else's watch? I wonder if they said something like, well, maybe because that other attorney's not here anymore because Jeffrey Williams isn't here, right? And these conversations play out and you can kind of be like, oh, okay, let's look at that. Oh, okay, I get it. So conversations are really important. The same way, I'm going to say it again, the way you guys ask things in the chat, ask questions, like, please, if you're on a jury, be that same person that you guys are in the chat in that deliberations room. So, Keisha E., I had questions about this 90 miles per hour thing too, because wasn't that just on like random, like intervals of the ankle monitor tracking? So, like, because they made it seem like it was like he hit the pedal and went 0 to 90. Not like he gets on a highway ramp and starts doing 90 when, quite frankly, when I drive into Atlanta, if you're not going like at least 80, you're going to have cars weaving all around you. So a 90 is not much of a stretch at all. At all. So, and thank you again. I say what the F I want. The Honorable that says, this gives me good vibes for SB. They won't take Hilton's word that he unconscious. Oh, we got this one, but this is so true. That 34 seconds was my favorite line I love Doug's whole closing. I have a lot of great things to say about different parts of Shart's. Of course, his was longer. There's probably more examples to pull from. But my favorite from the defense was just Shart emphasizing 34 seconds, right? He didn't really, I don't remember him crossing on that 34 seconds, talking about the timestamps. But he said it in closing. And for me, what that did is, all right, if I think a body's going to jerk, do I think it's going to jerk 34 seconds later? 34 seconds. So I'm so stuck on this. And I do think that the state had a good argument. Well, look at the angle. The car had to be pulled up. Now, I disagree with their theory that if the back of a car is sticking out, that means that their front windows aren't aligned, right? So I disagree with that. But again, if something sounds good and you just absorb it, that could be impactful on at least one juror. So, Jennifer Devine says, judge talking over love is the best. No need for the FedEx video. It's not guilty in my opinion. I do think, with diligence, they're clearly looking at these videos. I just predict that they'll want to see the same evidence again when they consider the Chamel Drinks incident. But maybe not. So, and again, hit that live button unless they come back shortly. And I'll keep the clock going so you guys can watch the timer. 4 hours and 12 minutes currently. I do anticipate more questions. So, and we'll be here if they do. I still think, guys, it's 11. They can deliberate until 3. They probably want to have a lunch. I do think a verdict's possible today. I'm not saying necessarily like expect 100%, but I think there's a greater chance, seeing that they've probably gotten through the Donovan Thomas and the home raid stuff. And I wonder if we'll get any questions about overt acts. Like some indication on, are they really considering all these things that involved other people and not them? Or are they just skipping over it like, thank you again, Jennifer. Miss AB says, good morning, everyone. I'm just jumping in. I'm at work. What's going on? So the jurors had the 3 questions. Again, in short, I'd say rewind about 30 minutes, you'll get a full recap. But in short, they wanted to see the video of Yak getting in the car and the drive-by of the Donovan Thomas shooting. That's all they wanted to see, just that footage. They wanted clarification on whether Doug Weinstein was asking, when he asked questions about the watch, was he saying my client's watch or the watch? And then they also wanted clarification on the meaning of intent. And it seems like that's related to counts 57, 58, and 61. Dropping the link to the current indictment. But those are all from the raid on Jeffrey Williams' home. The charges that Yak has for possession of marijuana with intent to distribute, and then criminal street gang with the underlying predicate act of possession of marijuana with intent to distribute, and then possession of a firearm while in possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. So if they decide, hey, he's not in possession of that weed with intent to distribute, all 3 of those counts legally should be off the table. They should be not guilties. If they find not guilty on count 58 and then come back with guilty on 57 and 61, it would be inconsistent as a sheer matter of law. So, and don't, just to say, there are certainly times where jury verdicts come back and they end up saying, oh, not guilty on 58, but guilty on 57. Or 61. They had a gun. And they forget that they're supposed to also find the element of the possession with intent to distribute, which they just found not guilty on. There are times when verdicts are returned that are inconsistent. So it's not outside the realm of possibility. And that might be where you see, what is it? The JNOV, the judgment notwithstanding verdict. I always forget the acronyms. So that could be an instance where Judge Whitaker would, through a JNOV, like set aside the inconsistent guilties that are incompatible with something they found not guilty on. So, but good to see you, Miss AB. FFS says, I got sort of chewed out for putting my head down in court. I think Judge has sympathy for him with everything going on. I agree, especially, I know it's like Shannon Stillwell that's putting his head down to rest, but she's still heard, she's gotten wind because of Diamante Kendrick, waking you up at 2 a.m. to transport you, right? So she might just infer that same context to Shannon Stillwell and just be like, oh, jury's not here, it's okay, they've got to be here all day anyway. So, but this is true, like, even when the jury's not present, sometimes judges will be like, sit up straight in my courtroom. Don't yap your mouth, don't chew gum. So, don't go into court trying to make a bad first impression. I would not advise that for anybody. Heather M says, thank you to Classy for his high opinion of you. Love Classy. That's how I found you. Good to have you here, Heather. I appreciate you. Smart, entertaining, and with humor and snark. Second, was late and don't want to miss a thing. Atkins' constant hand motions make me feel unusually, I think this is violent. But yeah, we've got to cheer up there for the Atkins hands to keep the good vibes going. But thank you so much for coming over. And guess what? When I said it was Tuesday in the stream earlier, you guys are like, Kat, it's Wednesday. And that reminds me of 2 things. First of all, Club Classy tonight over on Classy Beach channel. We got to run this back one time. It's been a while.
Oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Mike.
So there we go. Good little Wednesday throwback there with the old Geico commercial. Thank you so much again, Heather M. Maybe see you over at Club Classy tonight. Ashley Linnell says, they stalked these guys for years and built a Rico to prove this unaliving. They will not believe them on drinks or Detective V. And I really think Detective V is a problem. And I think her confidence is a problem. I think her confidence is exactly the mess that would say, like, hey, this video shows something else. And then instead we start saying, no, it doesn't, because I've already determined what it says. Or I would represent that it's the same thing next time I fill out an affidavit for a search warrant. Just not good. Not good. Thank you, Ashley. Keisha says Kat's Hilton voice took me. Hilarious. Love it. I don't even remember it, so it was probably just coming from the gut there. So, very different. I know her shore. Very different. And we were talking, I think, in the Flesh of the Gods chat when he was streaming yesterday, how Woody called Hilton out for acting tough. I don't remember the wording of it, but Woody had called her out. Like, yeah, when you were trying to talk all tough or something like that. And just another thing you kept in the back of my mind, that she does that and it was noticeable when she was trying to build rapport. She thinks it's effective, and I don't know if it really is. I don't know if it really is. Oh. KC Dog says, gonna miss the Honorable KNW's big sigh the most. Well, speaking of Flesh of the Gods, you can go over to his channel, and he's got, if you put a code in his chat, like the exclamation point, cat sigh is one word, pops me right up on the screen, and you get a cat sigh on demand. So definitely got to make sure you check that out. Get your cat sigh fix at any time. Chip Ewing says, for Hilton's new book, Confessions on a Beat. Yeah. I really didn't like that, because it was kind of like she was, like, Whitaker, whatever non-jury day, she said it's words on a beat. And we were all kind of like, all right, that's like a brush off. And then Hilton kind of embraced it. So, I don't know. I didn't really like that comparison. And I get that it helps her case to say confessions on a beat, right? He's going into the booth and talking about the ops dropping. Like, I get it. If you've never listened to a song with any lyrics that aren't like flowers and roses, right? If you've never been exposed to this genre, you might think it's incredibly, incredibly powerful circumstantial evidence for someone to have a song on their phone on, what was it, March 17th was the date it was sent to his phone device or something like that. Because Shart tried to raise some reasonable doubt about when it was actually recorded, because the file could have just been sent to him on a certain day, but it was recorded days earlier or weeks earlier or months earlier, right? If you guys heard me comment about it, you know, one of the reasons you might want to hang around Jeffrey Williams if you want to do music is not just because he has the studio, but because he actually gets the work done. There's a lot of people, they try to go and record somewhere, and lo and behold, you've got to, like, hammer them down, like, hey, are you done working on that yet? Are you done working on that? Can you send that track we worked on? And it's like weeks later, months later. So, but if you're not familiar to that and you just accept it at face value, you might get the impression and conclude that the only reasonable explanation is that Shannon Stillwell was driving around that night op hunting, just like the PowerPoint slide was titled. And he goes to the booth to talk about op hunting because it's a confession and not words on a beat. It's a confession on a beat. And I don't really think that that's necessarily a reasonable conclusion, although I can see a possibility, right? I just don't think it's enough to be proof that that's what happened. But the scary thought is, if that jury isn't speaking with each other and talking about this genre of music, if these attorneys didn't do a good job of asking the questions that would get you thinking about this stuff, there could be a jury pool out there one day that faces the same question and goes, there's no way that somebody would go in the booth and write about that if they weren't actually doing it. And that's a scary prospect. That's a really scary prospect. So, thank you again, Chip. JL says, isn't a long deliberation time bad for Yak and Shannon? I mean, I don't really like to read too much into long deliberations. I mean, everybody says a quick verdict means it not guilty, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm sure anyone that follows like trials, it's probably a trial that's just like so way beyond reasonable doubt, 100% certainty, you believe someone's guilty. And I think every once in a while, something comes along where the entire jury feels that way. And there's a quick verdict because everyone's just like, oh gosh, yep, this guy did it. Why are we even here for? Like, let's just vote our yes and move it on. But at the same time, I think they have a lot of stuff to go through. They've got, bring out the shopping carts. And again, these shopping carts, this stuff wasn't all sent back with the jury. They did take out the firearms and the jewelry. But they had tons of papers to go through. They're asking for extra paper copies of the indictment because they've got to read through and understand the wording. And then they've got all this stuff back there. Tons and tons of stuff. So it just wouldn't be possible to take it seriously and be done quickly. However, it does seem like they're moving. They're making good progress. So I don't really think one way or the other. I think people are giving themselves both false hopes and false pessimism when they try to read into the deliberation time. Dee Dee says, Doug say Yak had just gotten in from California a day or two before. Yep. So great if the jury remembers something like that. Another important detail, like, you know, you're hanging in, like maybe he was there with some stuff, stopping by. Doesn't necessarily mean he was staying there, right? I think Doug did a great job sowing those seeds. Michael Billups says, and what about the police street cam that froze for no reason at the drink shooting? Yep. Had perfect view, suspicious police work maybe. I did think they asked the LPR chick, what's her name, Sarah or something like that. Like, is that, I feel like one of the witnesses said that that's not unusual. I don't know. But at the same time, it's kind of like, maybe fix that if we want to rely, if we know we rely on that evidence. Maybe fix it. Use a different system. So, but in any case, yeah, very interesting that the one guy happened to be watching it and went and relayed over to Hogan, like, hey, I actually have this intersection. It froze over here. It's just weird. So, I think the solution there would just be get a better system if we want to rely on this type of surveillance to do this type of thing. If not, maybe we've got to come to terms that we cannot rely on it with the confidence that we want to rely upon it with. Angie Lay says, hey, Cat and Chat fam, I'm listening from the bushes. Aw, shout out to Angie. You gotta say it loud so she can hear out in the bushes. Let us know if you see Viverito. The Exception says, good morning, Cat and Chat. Just catching up. I'm gonna miss waking up to everyone here when they're found not guilty. Hey, man, make sure you link with, or remember the names that you want to remember. Check out some other channels. I'm sure if you guys are interested in other trials or the continuation of the rest of the YSL indictment. Oh, I got this thing on the screen. We'll be running into each other. I mean, I like to complain about things that piss me off. So if you are watching this trial and you're watching it on this channel because, hey, Kat gets pissed off about this stuff, you know, like, there are other things in courts of law that piss me off. So if you're into that kind of thing, we will definitely meet again. Definitely will meet again. But I feel this. Carmela says, Yak Gotti vibes appears to be high. Through this entire trial, he always gave me good vibes about him. Sending peace to Yak and SB. Yep, and I think that showing's really important. I mean, if you guys aren't on X, there's a picture that's been going around. It's a still from when Doug had his hand on Yak's shoulder, and everyone's in the frame. Let me see if I can find it. But I think those types of visuals are really important. And it sucks a little bit because they sit farther away from the jury, but I still think it's noticeable a little bit. I thought I retweeted it. Ruh-roh, maybe I didn't retweet it. I saw it a few times, and I remember thinking, like, I've already retweeted it. Well, dang, I can't find it. Maybe Doug reposted it. Aha. Okay, so Doug reposted one that crops Bots out. Bots was in a... there was like a more landscape-shaped one where Bots was visible over here. So Bots is missing, but there's been these stills, several from this moment, like a few different screenshots that different people took of this moment. And I think it's really important because everyone's just like, jury, this is on you now. But altogether, you've got two different co-defendants who, in theory, could go against each other, who could hate each other, who could be trying to throw each other under the bus. They're standing strong. So, really important. Let's see. And thank you again, Carmilla. Little Mama says, how much time is Yak facing on his jail charges unrelated today to this case? We're going to replay, and again, this is thanks to Dee Dee. I have it queued up. We're going to replay. It was mentioned at the end of the plea colloquy for Jeffrey Williams. So we're going to replay that because, again, it's not an easy task to look at the timetables and math for different charges with different conditions. So I'm going to rely on what they said in court to guide us rather than try to guess myself. Peter Ortiz says, wow, I miss Tyler Perry in the courtroom. Yep, you sure did. You might have to rewind. Destined to Be says, Hilton said she likes rap music. Who do you think she listens to? I get ludicrous vibes. Also, what is my email address? Listen, that's probably so backed up. But I'm putting it in the chat right now. But yeah, I don't know. Didn't she quote a song? I don't remember what song. Didn't she quote somebody in her closing? So I feel like she quoted somebody, but it's maybe I'm thinking like something because I've been doing a lot of rewinds on the trial too. Maybe it wasn't part of closing. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can picture her listening to Luda. Hilarious. Was it Jeezy? Hilarious. Hilarious. Oh boy. Probably what got her amped up. One of my favorite days in this chat, you guys, was the question in the chat was, what music do you think Atkins listens to on his way home from court? Oh, you guys are hilarious. The answers were so funny. And then we did the same thing for Sprinkle, and so many people said the jail calls, he just listens to those on the way home from work, and then his own voice as an affirmative pep talk. For Sprinkle. Heck yeah. Hilarious. Who said Dave Oh, wait, is this talking about Atkins? Dave Matthews? Oh, gosh. He listens to Homicide by Woody. Oh, my goodness. Heck yeah. Thank you so much, Destined to Be. Peter Ortiz says bad tacos and warm beer piss off cat. Heck no. No. You know, I don't mind warm beer. I mean, you got to deal with that sometimes when you travel. But bad tacos are an absolute no. No, 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 no. I won't even try to eat them. And I don't like wasting things. But I'm not going to put up with bad tacos. Shout out to Peter Ortiz. And then let's see. Let's get this timing up. We're going to switch over. Let me put a banner up. Rewatch and a plea colloquy. Well, actually, since it's over, let me just use the transcript. All right, so I think like from right around here, let's see.
He's
Oh, I guess, yeah, this must be one of those moments where the court mic just cuts in the middle of them speaking. So, but yeah, we're going to get a gauge on the time that Kendrick and Stillwell were facing and how that might have played into their plea negotiations. And remember, we did have a directed verdict on 3 counts, so that happened after this plea colloquy.
imprisonment. He's charged with count 57. Which was participation in criminal street gang activity, which carries a sentence of 5 to 20 years. He was also charged with count 58, which is violation of the Georgia Controlled Substance Act. That is for the possession
Right, marijuana.
of marijuana, which carries a sentence of 1 to 10 years. As to count 59, I believe that's the possession of codeine with the intent to distribute, which is 5 to 30 years. And count 59, which is the possession of cocaine, which
That
is
60 is possession of cocaine.
so 59 was the codeine, 60
Right.
is the possession of cocaine, which was 1 to 5 years. Possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, which was count 61, which is 5 years to serve consecutive to any count indictment. Possession of a machine gun, which was count 62, which was 10 years to serve consecutive. And then he was charged with count 63, which is possession of a firearm by a convicted felon pursuant to 1611-133. I know my math isn't the best, but that's life plus some years. The state's recommendation, Your Honor, was for Mr. Kendrick to plead to count 1, conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, which was 20 to serve 15. Count 2, the murder reduced to voluntary manslaughter, 20 years to serve 15. 20 years to serve 15. And then to the gang count 57, also 20 years to serve 15, all to run concurrent, and the state was willing to null pros all the other counts in the indictment.
All right, and Mr. Kendrick and the attorneys associated with you, I want to make sure that y'all know that unlike what happened with Mr. Williams, if you plead non-negotiated to less than all of the charges, there is nothing that the court can do if the state chooses to go forward with some of those charges. So you could not do what Mr. Williams pled guilty or nolo to each of the charges that he was facing. You cannot say, well, I'd like to plead guilty to count 1 and I'd like to plead to the reduced charge on count 2, and then I'd like to just skip the rest of them, because the state can say, well, we're not skipping the rest of them, we're still going to try you for the rest of them. And the state can also say, we're not okay with letting you plead to voluntary manslaughter unless you abide by the terms of the agreement. We're going to go forward with the murder trial. So I know that Mr. Weinstein, you and Mr. Apt and everybody else who's been helping know that, but because things seem to have worked out sort of beneficially for some of these other people who have already pled. Y'all might think, oh, well, gosh, can't we do something better than that? Given what you're facing, they hold a lot of the cards, and a lot of it is outside of the ability of this court to change, okay? All right.
We understand that, Your Honor. Thank you for advising us
All
of
right.
that.
All right, Mr. Stillwell is facing,
Your Honor, Mr. Stillwell is also looking at count 1, which the conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, which is 5 to 20 years. He is facing 2 counts of murder for count 2 and count 49, which each carries a sentence of life imprisonment. He's also charged with count 50 of this indictment, Your Honor, which is participation in criminal street gang activity, which carries a sentence of 5 to 20 years. He's also charged with count 51, participation in criminal street gang activity, also a sentence of 5 to 20 years. Count 52, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, previously convicted under 1611-133, which is 15 years consecutive to any count in the indictment. 54, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, which is 5 years to serve consecutive. Count 64, which is another possession of a firearm by a convicted felon under 1611-133, which is also 15 years to serve consecutive. So Mr. Stillwell's looking at maximum of 2 life sentences plus
85 years.
Plus 85 years, Your Honor. The state's recommendation, and I'll just say globally, Your Honor, was 60 years to serve 40 years in prison. That we would have reduced both of the murders to voluntary manslaughter, Your Honor. And we had given his attorney the option to kind of craft how that 40 years would look. But that was the extent to our negotiations, Your Honor.
And Mr. Stillwell, kind of the same information to you. If the state does not want to reduce charges, you're not entitled to plead to reduce charges. They can say, you got to face these murder charges and we're going to make it a jury trial if you don't agree to what we're offering. Same thing, you can't say, well, I'd like those other charges dismissed if they're not willing to dismiss them in exchange for the negotiated sentence. So obviously, each of you has the right to continue with the trial. You know, what you're doing, you are all have very capable attorneys representing you who clearly care very passionately about you all personally, as well as presenting your best case. But it's ultimately going to be up to the jury, and you cannot know what any jury is going to do. And they may say, I don't believe a single bit of this beyond a reasonable doubt. Y'all are both walking. They may say, you know what, I buy this, I don't buy that. I'm convicting you of 4 of the 5 or 4 of the 8 charges. You're still then going to face sentencing. They may convict you of everything. And if you are convicted of everything, Mr. Stillwell, you're facing 2 life sentences plus 85 years on top of that, as opposed to 40 years to serve with parole as a possibility. And Mr. Kendrick, you are facing life plus, I think I added up 115 years instead of 20 to serve 15. So it's just something to think about. And I mean, it's already past 5 o'clock. So are y'all going to leave the offer open until you have withdrawn the offer before you even put it on the record to?
We communicated this to them last night, but they did not accept it. They would have withdrawn off.
All right, well, given that the state spent the entire day negotiating Mr. Williams' plea, ultimately unsuccessfully, I don't know if either Mr. Weinstein or Mr. Sharp would have been able to negotiate with you during today,
They would have, no, we didn't have any communication from Mr. Weinstein or Mr. And they rejected the offer.
Okay.
I did have communication with Mr. Abate today. I attempted to have
right.
communications with the DA last Tuesday
Well,
morning, but she failed to show up for our meeting.
Any chance y'all might leave it open until 9 o'clock tomorrow?
Your Honor, I'll consult with the DA and if she wishes to read.
Okay. I mean, I have no idea whether they'd want to keep it, but I haven't, we haven't put it on the record, and I haven't ensured myself as the court that they understood what the potential sentences were up until just now. So I would appreciate it if she would, so that they have the opportunity, having heard from the court, to talk to their attorneys. And they may still say that we're good, we're going forward, but.
We'll consult with the
All right.
district attorney, but as a.
Okay. So in the event that it is no longer open to you, or that you decide to reject it anyway, I plan to start the trial again Monday morning. I'm going to have the jury be here at 9. I'm going to have us be here at 8:30. We're back to getting no sleep. So I'll see y'all at 8:30 regardless. Okay, now court is adjourned.
Okay, so there was the end of that rewatch there. Go back over to this, almost at 5 hours here total of deliberation time. But yeah, that's like serious time, you guys. And remember, yes, some of those counts are off the table because of the directed verdict. And also, since the other 3 counts that had a partial grant with the directed verdict, where we're going to charge lessers, the minimums change a little bit with the sentencing requirements for those if they were to be found guilty. So a little bit different, but not too different from that, what we heard there. So, and Julie Cat says, shout out to Jura56 in the chat for the hilarious shade thrown at Love's hair, the 1993 hair wrap, the ribbon. It's crazy. To a lot of people, that looked like she changed her ponytail color. Like, just bleached, like did an ombre look for just the ponytail. Thank you so much, Julie. Let's check X and see if there's any short-term updates. I don't see anything new from Joseph Papp. So they're just back deliberating. If you guys want to, let me get a link. If you want quick updates over on X, Joseph Papp is the guy to follow. Here's his thread from today. And if you're listening, it's Joseph for his first name, and Papp is P-A-P-P. P is in Papa. So that's his name if you're listening and want to be able to find him on X. I will be back on if we get more jury questions or a verdict today. Remember, they're going until 3 p.m., so they've got about 3.5 hours, including or not including lunch, depending on whether they work during their lunch. So I'm going to jump off of here. We'll wrap this up here. Make sure you hit that bell if you want to get a notification from YouTube when I go live, because it's not, there won't be really a scheduling window, right? I'm going to schedule the stream and go live right away. So there's not going to be that, hey, 30-minute notice that YouTube usually sends out. So hit that bell if you want to get notifications, at least for today and Monday, if necessary, for these jury question or verdict pop-up streams. You guys, I'll take care in the meantime. And, you know, if we don't connect back on a live, everyone have a good holiday for getting together with friends or family, or just eating good food tomorrow. So, love you guys. You all have a good holiday, and maybe see you again later today. Take care. Wait, they're calling the jury back? You're lying. Don't do it. Don't troll me. Hold on. Who said they're calling the jury back? Don't do that. If the jury comes back in a minute, I'll go live in a minute, all right? See you guys then. Bye, guys.